What's up, Team Tobias? What's up, Key West? What's up, Tom Segura? A different Tom Segura, not the famous one. I wish it was the famous one. Welcome to Quelling Your Query Conundrums with me, Lane Haymont, and Ann Rose. Let's go. Take us away, Ann.
All right. Well, we are back at it again for our second, your first of today. But, we're just going to keep rolling through these and hopefully help you out with some of your Quelling Your Queries Conundrums. Why did I even come up with this title? I don't even know.
I don't know. You thought it was the greatest, smartest thing ever, and so did I. And then it's like all cues, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even remember my own name.
All right. Well, as we go through these queries, I always like to give the caveat, that I will mess up names. I'm really sorry, and places and all the things. And I am not great at reading out loud, especially on my tiny, tiny, tiny little computer monitor. So I'm doing the best I can here. So let's just go right to it. What do you think?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Dear Ann, this one's actually addressed to me, so I thought that was really nice.
Oh, the other ones really just say Dear Agent?
The last one just said Dear Agent, which is fair, because,
okay.
But I mean, I think one of them said Dear Ann and Lane, but I don't remember. We'll see. We'll see come later. So, okay. Dear Ann, because of your interest in romances that are both heartwarming and heart-wrenching and fresh retellings of lesser-known stories, I am sharing with you title, 89,000 words. An upmarket commercial reimagining of the myth of Celine and Eddie Moyne as a contemporary multi-POV speculative tale of destiny and soulmate. Celine's journey of self-discovery is reminiscent of Madeline Miller's Circe. Oui, bonjour.
It's Greek or Roman. I forget which one.
Oh, well, I was going with French. So I don't know much Greek, so I can't. Opa! But that's about it. Okay. But set against the ocean misted California vibes of Taylor Jenkins Reid's Malibu Rising, mixed with the light sci-fi and high stakes of Emily St. John Mandel's Sea of Tranquility. Downhearted lunar scientist Celine Thrace has an ethereal connection to the moon and a prestigious job. Yet she trudges through her predestined life on Penumbra. Thank you. A hidden Earth-like planet humans could easily reach if only they knew of it. When Selena senses a moon-gazing human close to discovering Penumbra, the planet's governing counselors worry for their defenseless home. They send Celine undercover to California to investigate a potential suspect, musician Eddie Moyne. A chronic insomniac with a passion for astronomy, Andy spends endless nights gazing at his muse, the moon, and is gripped by a visceral attraction to Selena the moment they meet. Unsettled, Celine realizes their innate bond means Andy is the threatening observer, but she cannot resist their soulful connection. As they embark on a passionate affair, Celine must hide her origins from Andy and her illicit relationship with a human from Penbra's counselors. Still, as Celine spends more blissful time in California with a candid Andy, she starts understanding her existential malaise and questioning her destiny. But when counselors discover that Andy took a space photo that could expose Penumbra to humans, they fear as warmongering colonialists, they send an agent to silence him, leaving him in a precarious coma. Torn between her love for her soulmate and for her home, and distraught after a shocking discovery about her true self, Celine must find a way to save Andy while safeguarding Penumbra or risk losing both. The title explores mental illness, belonging, and identity matters important to me. There you go. Bio removed. Thank you for your consideration. That is that.
Are these only a page?
Yeah, this is a page. Is it because I'm reading terribly? It's probably
no. It's because it's so complicated.
It's very dense. It's very
dense. It's dense. And this isn't necessarily the author's doing. It's my reading about sci-fi and fantasy that, I'm used to It's dense. It's very dense.
There's no blood, there's no gore, there's no horror. There's just this isn't your bag, Lane. So
it's dense.
It's dense. Okay, well we'll start at the top and we'll go down. That's what we like to do. So, because of your interest in romances that are both heartwarming and heart-wrenching and fresh retellings of lesser-known stories, I am sharing with you title an upmarket 89,000 words, an upmarket commercial reimagining of the myth of Celine and Eddie Moyne as a contemporary multi-point of view speculative tale of destiny and soulmates. That is one sentence.
And we don't get a genre. We get speculative retelling of, so is it a modern day fantasy? Is it a magical realism? Is it science fiction? I can see it being in any one of those, and I don't know which.
It is an upmarket commercial reimagining.
Upmarket and commercial cannot be the same thing because upmarket is also commercial.
Okay, so I think they're getting some of their language confused for sure. But yeah, I agree here that I'm not 100% sure of the genre because it's a reimagining of the myth of these characters as a contemporary multi-point of view speculative. So it's a speculative because speculative in nature means that it is contemporary, but has an element that isn't making it completely in our world.
There's so many genre terms in there that I can't exactly place it.
I actually think this is supposed to be a romance.
That's what I thought when they started with the whole romantic blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh, a romance. And then it went into science fiction and I guess magical realism and then mythology and speculative. And I am not smart enough for these queries.
You're not smart enough for them. I don't feel smart enough for them either, honestly. So I think this is supposed to be a romance. So I think it would generally sit on the romance shelf. But as it is a romance, it also has speculative elements. And so that's probably how I would confine this to pitch it, is just to do it that way. That feels a little bit more straightforward and maybe a little bit easier to grasp.
Even though it's science fiction, obviously, because it's a different planet, could you call this contemporary romantasy?
I wouldn't call it romantasy because romantasy is in general fantasy, and this isn't a fantasy world. This is going to happen and take place on Earth.
So romantasy has to be a secondary world.
As it stands right now, that's what we have seen. Now, will it always stay that way?
Gotcha.
Depends on what publishers decide to do with it. But you're right, because it does have the science fiction element because it's a different world, right? And it's moon and space, and that's generally science fiction. But I think by just speculative, it kind of gives you, okay, it's not completely entirely our world. And then it goes into the comps, which are, I think Malibu Rising is, I don't remember when that came out. That feels like an older Taylor Jenkins Reid's book. Do you have it? You probably have no idea.
I hear Malibu Rising and I think of the movie with Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah, I assumed. So I don't know. I would check the dates of publication for some of these and just make sure that you're in your last. We like say comps last 5 years, but really last 3 years is better. Also, I would say 89,000 words. It's a little bit long. But it's not contemporary, so I think it might be okay. Yes.
Are we going that word count with it as a romance?
It is, yes, a romance, but it does have, the speculative nature to it. So I think that is what is going to, if it was just a contemporary romance, I'd say 80, right? Like that's like kind of my 80. But but because it has that speculative element, and I do think we're going to have to get a little bit of world building in here, I think that maybe is why this stretch doesn't feel too out of line. So,
okay.
Downhearted lunar scientist Celine Thrace has an ethereal connection to the moon and a prestigious job, yet she struggles through her predestined life on Penumbra, a hidden Earth-like planet humans could easily reach if only they knew of it. When Selena senses a moon-gazing human close to discovering Penumbra, the planet's governing counselors worry for their defenseless home. They send Selena undercover to California to investigate a potential potential suspect, musician Andy Moyne. So I don't understand why they are sending her, I guess.
I don't understand why they're not human if they look exactly like humans, because they're sending her undercover. I mean, and technically they're extraterrestrials, but I mean, they're human.
They are, or maybe they're not. I don't know.
Well, you know, maybe we're extraterrestrials because maybe we were, I forget what they call it, permaseed, you know, from meteors. Our genes came down and created life. And so what's up?
Yeah, so maybe we're the extraterrestrials. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, if she's a lunar scientist, I'm not sure why she would be the best person to go and investigate a potential suspect.
I represent a number of scientists who are amazing, and I can only imagine there is a technical term for a lunar scientist. I dream of representing a shark scientist, and I call it shark science, but there's an actual term that is unpronounceable in my language, or at least to me.
I mean, that's probably why they just said lunar scientist.
But I would rather know the verbiage, because lunar scientist, I'm like, that's something and I'm not trying to be mean in any way, shape, or form, because I have no idea what you would call a lunar scientist.
I'm going to bet that this author does know that, but for the sake of simplicity, they have dumbed it down for all of us people who do not know what that is. And so they're just saying, listen, this is just a lunar scientist. So it's because if they use the, hypogonascephalades, whatever it is, right? Then we'd be like, what is that? We don't know what that is. But if you go lunar scientist, then I know.
Put it in parentheses. Like if someone sent a query with the actual shark scientist name and then parentheses shark scientist, I'd be like, ha, that's funny. It's something I would do. That's funny.
All right, well, you're being picky here.
Yes, I am being very picky because I'm feeling very stupid listening to all these queries by very smart people.
Very, very smart people. Yes. Okay. So, I mean, that didn't bother me. I'm not really sure what it is that Celine wants, right? Like, I want to really know. I mean, she's trudging through her life. She's has predestined, I'm not quite sure I'm getting like what her goals are. And I personally like to understand what our main character's goals are in something. So she's kind of just going day to day. I like that, it gives us quickly, what she's going to do. She's got to go investigate this thing. I'm not exactly sure why she's the person to do it. It's pretty cut and dry. So a chronic insomniac with a passion for astronomy, Andy spends endless nights gazing at his muse, the moon, and is gripped by a visceral attraction to Celine the moment that they meet. All right, I'm going to pause because we were just talked about, like, yes, she's going to be sent down, but you're talking about him gazing at the moon. So does he already see her on the moon? Like, when I first read this, I had like that moment of, okay, so wait, how do they meet? Make it clear how that happens. Like, so when she's come down, that's how they meet, right? Question mark?
There's a lot of filler words in there. Like, why does it matter that he's a musician or an insomniac? Why does it matter that she's predestined? And how is she predestined? I always say you want to cut this stuff down as much as you can to bare bones, because otherwise you get this opportunity for confusion and dum-dums like me to let my imagination run wild. Like, what the hell is a lunar scientist?
What the hell's a lunar scientist? Blane's not over this. He's not over.
No, I'm not. And as soon as we get off, I'm gonna Google lunar scientist.
You can Google it now. Just go Google it.
I will.
So, yeah, I think here it gets a little confusing. Also, because we immediately jump to him, this is making me think, is this a dual point of view? But then we go back right to her. Unsettled, Selena realizes that their innate bond means Andy is a threatening observer and that she cannot resist their soulful connection. As they embark on the passionate affair, they must hide their origins from, she must hide her origins from him. Okay, we've got conflict and her illicit relationship from the counselors. Makes sense. But nothing aside from that's really keeping them apart. So for their relationship to make this a romance, like, there's really nothing that's tearing them apart or making me go, well, are they going to be together? Aren't they going to be together? Because it seems pretty set in stone. Yes?
Lunar geologist.
Lunar geologist. Okay.
Lunar geologist.
they go and investigate potential suspects.
Interesting. Let me look.
So I'm not sure if this is a dual point of view, if this is not a dual point of view. I think that if it's not, I wouldn't necessarily lead with him in that second paragraph because it's just a little bit confusing. It's also not really clear on like how they meet or if he's already seen her before on the moon, that kind of thing. So, but when they discover that ND took a space photo, so why is he taking space photos? How does he have a camera that's good enough for taking space photos? If he's a musician, I'm not exactly kind of sure of that could expose them. Oh, another thing that I'm going to go back to, because it's like this planet could be easily reached if humans only knew of it. So at first I thought, oh, okay, cool. They want to interact with humans, but then I find out, no, they do not. So I guess maybe like the way that that's framed made it a little bit unclear too, that they don't want humans to know about their planet. So it's as close if humans knew about it, but luckily they don't. Even just saying that would kind of clear that up for me. Yes.
A lunar geologist, and apparently they called them planetary geologists, studies how the moon evolved through time by looking at images, remote sensing data, and lunar rocks and soil to recover that information and put it all into context. And how is she a lunar scientist? Of what moon? Penumbra's moon? But if they could find it so easily, does that mean it's in our solar system? And does it share our moon?
Ah, that's a good question.
Mic drop.
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know whose moon it is because this almost makes it feel like they are the moon.
Interesting.
Because he has his muse is the moon. So is Penumbra the moon?
Oh, so I wonder if Penumbra, like you said, is the moon, but to them, since they're on the moon, it's their planet.
Right.
Oh, snap.
That's that's kind of what I'm getting. Maybe.
I hope we didn't just like totally spill the beans on this query and totally like give away all the plots and twists. Like, spoiler alert.
I don't think so. I mean, this is based off of a myth, so I bet you if we read the myth, it's
true.
Then he's in a coma. I think maybe the meat is giving us just a little bit too much here in the sense of the tone. Remember, query just needs to tell us, who's the main character, what is it they want, what stands in their way, what happens if they fail. So you give us this, but you give us a little bit too much extra. So I would probably just trim it down just a little bit more. Torn between her love for her soulmate and for her home, and distraught after shocking discovery about herself, Celine must find a way to save ND while safeguarding Penumbra or risk losing both. I mean, those are great stakes. So overall, great stakes for a romance. I don't have that will they, won't they necessarily sense to this that I think I would really like. It's probably a very compelling read. Thoughts?
It sounds like it could be a very cool book and actually a very cool movie. I think I've seen something not similar, but in the same vein on Netflix that people actually panned, but I really liked it. Who was it? Maybe it starred Anna Kendrick. She was on a trip to the moon and someone stowed away and love shenanigans ensued.
Oh, I don't think I've seen this movie of hers. So
I could not recall anything other than that.
That's fair. So for this query, I think that you're on the right track. I think that you're maybe just giving us a little bit too much. Pull back just a little bit. Make it clear if this is a dual point of view or single point of view. And if it is a single point of view, then just really focus on Celine. And if it's a dual point of view, then I really want to know more about also him and like his relationship in the story and like his GMC. What are his goals, motivations, conflict? What is it? But only if it's a dual point of view do I need to know that here. That is my takeaway. Anything from you? Last minute thoughts, opinions?
No, not at all. I think we nailed it down. I think I'm confused, but I think it would be a much better spelt out romance retelling of the Celine mythology. Yeah, I think that's the best way to pitch it.
Yeah, I think that that's probably a great strong hook too for it as well. So, all right, that's it. That's quelling your query conundrums with me, Anne Rose, and Lane Haymont. And if you would like your query conundrums quelled, then you should send us your query at the email below. So there you go. Like, subscribe, drink some water. Don't forget to drink water. Water is very important. And we will see you next time on Quelling Your Query Conundrums.